All right.
Let's see. I don't know if my screen is visible or not.
Yes. So here we are with our last session on the title as Art of Public Speaking, and here we have with us.
Men kan du få svara? Yes. My name is Per
And
Oberg, and I'm just trying to then get PowerPoint up and running. So how do I share my screen now?
so, sir, there is an option. There must be an arrow showing, which is pointed upwards. You can just click on the same, and if you bring your cursor to it, it shall name as share screen. So you can share your screen and share the PPT with us.
Where does it say share screen?
Sir, because once you share your screen, you will be able to click on the PPT on
Yes.
your computer. Yes, sir.
Yes. First, I'm trying to see where share screen is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just click on share screen.
Where is it?
Sir, right in the down. It's in the downside of the screen. Below our picture, there's this option.
Yeah, I can see audio video settings, but that is not. I can see yes, no poll. I can see.
So there's this option of video, then mic, and then there's a share screen option. An arrow is showing pointed upwards. That is how you can share your screen, and that way you'll be able to share your PPT with us.
I thought it should be easy. That may be. No. Now something happened.
Oh, okay.
Can you see something?
Sir, not yet. If you click on it and you click the PPT, then it will start sharing. It will ask you an option as to what thing you want to share from your computer.
Does it share anything yet?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can see your screen now.
No, then I start this one.
Yes, sir.
So sorry for the delay in the beginning that to get everything working.
It's absolutely fine, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
You may, sir. Okay.
So I am sitting in Sweden, and today we have it's very bright. We have short days, but the sun is shining, and a lot of snow outside reflects the light like nothing. So it makes everything getting maximum bright. And I'm going to talk to you about this the future, and also come up in the end to the legal aspects of it. I don't want to scare you, but the world is changing and you must find your place in that world. That's what I have to say to start with, and adapt to it. It's very important to be a part of this type of future and analyze the future so that you can get everything right. We have Corona and other issues that in their turn, they result in local and global changes. They, in their turn, results in new conditions for juridical aspects and challenges. And that's what I'm going to talk about. And then afterwards, you can put your questions and so on. I see three main issues that is very important. The short-term issue, the main one right now, it's the pandemic, which changed life for almost everyone on this planet. The medium-term issue is the political and information change that takes place on this planet right now. And the third one is the long-term change, which is the climate change which we all are facing. Now, if you start to look at the corona pandemic, change of behavior is something what we do, people. We don't maybe meet so many people as before. We don't go to places we used to do, and we are thinking differently now about this. Some changes will be over when the corona period is over, but some changes may be staying there for a much longer time, and that includes especially certain groups. I think especially like elderly people will say that and this was different, so they will travel less, they will be more careful in the future. There's also a question of change of attitude and how we look at our own lives and the future and everything like that. Because now we see what is important in life or not. Before most people was running for money and so on, and trying to build the future in various ways. Now we have seen how vulnerable we are. After all, this pandemic is not the worst possible pandemic. It's a pandemic, but it's not the most deadly one, but it gives a lot of problem nevertheless. So it teaches us to think about what's valuable in life. And it also changed how we're doing business, like the tourist industry and restaurants and hotels and things like that, and traveling by airlines has in many places more or less crashed. Where I am here in Europe, and not at least in my country also, that many companies who are still alive are only that because of they have got money from the government. Otherwise, they would have been out of business. And many has already closed. They couldn't survive this pandemic. Then we have the politics and information. I will start with the politics there. What's happening on the world? We get more nationalism spreading in the world. More people look more to their own country. Before it was more of thinking international than it is moving towards today. We don't know if this movement will go on for many years more or what will happen, but that's the movement at the moment. We also get more of local orientation, and one thing is depending also on this corona, and so not at least. I mean, if you come to my country and see, we a lot of products that we used to import suddenly was not coming to us when the world started to close down, and transports was stopped, and borders was closed, and things like that. European Union, we had open borders basically, and especially in the Schengen area, and suddenly it was gone, and trucks could not cross. So the storage was in France, but they couldn't come to Sweden and so on. So this has learned us, and I think we will see that there is more of local orientation, that one should be more self-sufficient and so on in the future, locally. We also see something else in politics, less respect for typical Western democratic values. We can point at countries like Hungary, Poland, Turkey, Russia to see it from a European angle, where we see where even on the government level, people are having these different values, and whereas in the other European countries we see opposition parties who are growing stronger with less democratic values compared to what we think is the right way to do it. So let's see on the information then. We will see more fake news. This is what happens, and this also generates that we get more and more people with less fact-based attitudes. Under the corona pandemic, for instance, there are a lot of discussion, should we take the vaccine or not? Maybe vaccine is not good. Yes, there is a serious discussion about how good or bad vaccine can be, but more importantly, there are groups who are trying to spread false information regarding that the vaccine does things it doesn't do, like putting in chips in our body that they can control us with and so on. There's a lot of bluffs out there also. And this, more and more people start to see this, and more people start to believe it. And that means that there are attitudes among people which are not based on facts, but on other things. Then we see creation of something since many years back now, since the internet has come and so on, and that I call the spread out groups. That is formation of groups which are not in one location, but they are maybe in different places in a country, or even in international groups spread all over. And what happened is that this created different information worlds. When I was a child, we had 3 radio channels and 1 television channel. That's it. And so everybody had the same information. Now what happened is people select what the information they should get, and especially if they go for fake news sources or other specialist things, they are missing so much other. And that means that we kind of live in different worlds, different universes, because we have different information, what's going on, what's happened, and what is right and wrong. If we then look at the climate change, we can see that it will have huge effects on the agriculture. When it gets more rain or less rain, when it gets hotter or colder, when it get a fewer number of species and change like that. As an example, the insects has to pollinate, so we get fruits and many vegetables also. But we are not getting in that if there are less insects. And in Germany and other places, they have measured 70% less insects. Not species I'm talking about, but 70% volume of insects. And we know how much less of fishes there are in the oceans and so on. So we are going towards a problem where the agriculture and fishing and everything connected to that have problems. And this generates, of course, food problems for the future. And besides that, climate also creates water problems. Too much in some places and not enough. I know that in a few years' time, they say that 70 cities in India will have water scarcity as a problem. And this will change the inhabitable places. It doesn't happen overnight, but slowly but surely we are going to that people will abandon certain areas. Near to India, you see Bangladesh, who has huge areas which are only half a meter above sea level or less. And all these islands and so are frequently into problem. Other, if the river is high due to the water coming from the mountains, or it gets high due to storms and things pressing up the seawater. So more and more places will not be inhabited in future, and there will be areas where you can't have enough food and so on. So this is happening. And this will create migrations. So one of the challenges for the future is environmental migration. Now, if we look at the issues and change for the future, we have to identify all the challenges that we are meeting. We have to handle the changes. And we will have, as I say, depending on this information gaps between people, we will have islands of people, groups of people separated from the other more or less. Some will be physicals. There might be villages or cities or living their own life more than they do today. And we will have spread out groups which are many different places, but still is functioning in a network. And we will both see successful development in the future. We have a lot of good and interesting new inventions and systems and solving problems and so on. But we will also have failures. So we have a combination of positive things and bad things. And I'm talking now more about the challenges on the bad side, because that we also have to adapt to. For our survival, we need food and water, and this is one of the main problems for the future. Where should we live? If certain places we can no longer live in, then what happens? So we will have a flood of people moving around. Inside countries like India, who is a big country where people can move from one place to another, but also between countries. And we need to be prepared in advance. How do we do that? And how do we organize things so it actually works? And let's have a quick look at the business angle of this. How will the business change in the future? Which type of business will work? Now, we can see that local business are poised to develop a lot in Europe and other places. And that will, for instance, means that there is a little less of certain export business from India and other countries who used to do that. Like my country, we had so much things that was produced abroad, but people are talking more and more that we have to be more self-sufficient in certain things, and that will be a challenge for everyone. There is also a tendency strong in the business to reuse metal, plastic, wood, paper, everything, so that instead of getting fresh resources and empty them, we should reuse the resources we already have. Now, India, to say a few words about the Indian situation. First of all, challenges was there before the pandemic. The one I have seen mostly is that especially medium and small size companies had big problems. Why did they have problem? Because India was moving from a low price country who was exporting based on very low prices towards a medium level price country. And to be medium price means that you have to be better in quality and service. And people was not used to that. And also you have to be more active on the where you're going. And Indian medium and small size companies are very much concentrated on what has worked earlier, but what was worked 20 years ago is not the truth of the future. They have to change business strategy in order to survive, and that was without the corona. Now add to that the corona and add the other challenges, the new attitudes in the world and the climate things, and there is a huge challenge for the companies to find new ways of operating. India has so many groups, languages, religions, etc. It's really heterogeneous, probably the most heterogeneous country in the world. And this gives its own challenges. India really needs what it says, unity in diversity. But for that, everyone has to work together. So the question is how to keep it together when the development moves in all kinds of directions as it does now, and all truths are no longer the truths. And the biggest challenge for India, maybe apart from that, is the population. When India got independent, there were 350 million people. Now you have added 1,000 million people. In other words, you've gone from 35 to 350 crores. And 1,350 crores, sorry. 35 to 100, oh, sorry. From 35 to 135 crores. Well, it's difficult to translate something. Anyway, so it's a huge expansion, and the most people in India are young people. It means it could continue to grow like nothing, and in these other problems, facing all these other things, it's not possible for India to have a good future with that kind of explosion of population. Need to be able to use its resources in a good way, and then there is a maximum population that should be there. And to adapt to the future in advance is what needs to be handled and planned for, so things happen in the right way. So let's see the juridical things of this. How to identify legal challenges and handle them. This is something you must think of. What legal changes will be there in the future when there is a more local orientation, if there are more nationalists, the people are countries not cooperating, if there are more conflicts inside countries, if there are environmental problems and start mass migrations and so on. How to handle this from a legal position? This is something to work on. This is something to make your studies and reports and so on now, and to see, because this is really important. That belongs to the future. And where will politics and juridical issues go? And when I mean, we have the power sharing in many countries. Where the political is one power center which decides the direction to go and the laws and so on, and then we have the juridicals who is implementing the laws, and that's a separate one. But will they merge or stay apart? In these countries I mentioned, which are going more different in Europe, for instance, we see example where the political groups they try to take control of the juridical also, and if the political is controlling the juridical, then they kind of merge in the end, and then depending on which party has the majority and in power, the juridical will also change. So this is really a big challenge, how to make them stay apart and function in a good way over time. Now, I have always been, for many years, admiring India's way to handle very good election systems. Maybe after electing people, there are many things one can question, but at least the people can kick out regimes who doesn't work well in the central or in the in the states. But it, it seems to be quite open and fair elections in India. That's very good that that happens, even though we know there are unfair methods here and there included. But on the whole, India is doing quite well, and this needs to be. Can it stay like that? And the world needs to challenge this, and India has to handle it. So where will India go legally? What will happen in the future? Um, there are different ideas coming, there are new aspects there, depending on the politics, but also on movements within the legal society of India. And on top of that, you have to place India in the world. Where is India in the world now, and where it's going to go? And how it's going to handle this changing world in the future? What kind of jobs will there be in future? And you are being a student, which juridical jobs will be there? I think you should think that some juridical jobs may disappear, but more important, there will be more new juridical jobs. There will be more cases in certain fields connecting to these environmental things, connecting to that the business need to change, connecting to that there might come more pandemics or things that need to change the way we are living and how to handle that. And which specialties will be needed? This is also a very big and important question. We have to see and we have to decide that, and you place the role there when you will decide what your future is in this regard. And from that, you should make your own plan and strategy, so you take the right studies which take you to the right job where you can work with the future of India and the world, and where you can play an important role. So where will you work with what? So in the end, where are you in the future? Analyze it, decide that, and don't listen to old ideas. There are a lot of people who has done things, but I've seen one weakness of India, many things, is that, as I saw in the business, but I'm sure it's everywhere, that things that worked in old times, old people will tell you that that's the way to do it. But I think you have to think new. You have to make new ground. You have to find new solutions. You have to find new ways of doing it. And only then it can work finally. So with that, I am open for discussions or questions or whatever you have.
Thank you, sir, for this amazing session. So, one question I had, like, we know that a public speaker has a big role to play, but what, according to you, is the role of a listener also? Because I believe that as much as a public speaker plays a role and he gives his speech, the listeners also have a role to support and motivate the public speaker. So, what are your thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, how do you define a public speaker in that case? Is that anyone who speaks? Okay. So yeah, I mean, yes, it's important that we try to identify which speaker we should listen to, number one. And number two, we have to, those who have something important to say, they need support, of course, to be listened to. Their messages can be spread out to others and in all kinds of ways. And we should not be, how should I say, not changing ourselves, but we should really take in the information we are getting and see, is this important to me? Is there something I need to change because of this, and so on?
All right, sir. Thank you so much for this amazing session, sir, and thank you for joining all the way from Sweden.
Yes, thank you.
All right, sir. So I'll end the session here. And sir, I would request you to do join us for the paper presentation session, which will take place at 650, and you can also interact and network in the social lounge.
Yeah, I can go to the social lounge if someone wants to speak to me there.
Yes, yes, sir. Definitely.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
All right, sir. Bye bye.
Okay.